25 years ago today, the episode I've Got Batman in My Basement aired for Batman the Animated Series, September 30th, 1992. Hello friends, I'm Andy Canode, and welcome to the show where we take a look at Batman the Animated Series episode by episode on the 25th anniversary that they originally aired. If you're like me and grew up with Batman the Animated Series and are still a huge Batman fan today, then please hit the subscribe button so that you can see all the episodes as they come out.
It's a mystery worth checking out.
When I was a kid, I loved this episode. I got excited every time that I saw that title card come on, that this was the episode that was on that day. I couldn't watch it enough, and it just really holds a special place in my heart. I'm going to do my best to look at it from the perspective of today and not just hold it up to the nostalgic factor that's very prevalent in me today as I watch it.
That's good. Just don't make a mess.
So real quick, I'll give you the 30-second rundown of the episode with the Joker bomb on the screen. I think I've done this once or maybe twice, but practice makes perfect, right? The Penguin's goons are stealing a Fabergé egg, and Batman goes in to stop them. Meanwhile, Sherman, in the suburbs of Gotham City, is getting his junior detective kit, even though he's made fun of by the bullies. He follows this bird that flies overhead and ends up at the same place where the goons are battling Batman. Batman gets hit by a capsule and is passed out. They take Batman back to the Sherman's house and put him in the basement. That's where the title comes from. And then Penguin shows up, and Sherman and his friends have to stop him, and while Batman wakes up and finally captures the Penguin. Wow. The clock goes quick, doesn't it?
Valiant effort, but I win. Now back away, you irksome imps.
So the big thing for me in this episode is the character of Sherman. He is such an identifiable character for a 10-year-old boy. I think that's probably about the age that he is in this episode. And I wanted to be him. Every step of the way. I wanted that junior detective kit that he opens up in the beginning.
It's got a walkie-talkie wristband, a pen light, binoculars, even his cool badge.
This episode, honestly, I think is probably one of the first times that I really identified with wanting to be a detective. And I went through this huge phase where I actually wanted to be a detective until I learned that detectives actually had to go through like training and police work and had to be in danger and do paperwork and that kind of stuff. No, I just wanted to do the fun stuff like in this episode where they follow the bird to the warehouse.
Hey, that's no hawk. Judging by its wingspread and the shape of its head, it's obviously a giant South American vulture.
And then takes Batman back to his crime lab, which is his basement, and has all this set up.
This is my crime lab. It's not exactly the Batcave.
I wanted all of that. And what little kid wouldn't want to drive the Batmobile? So the whole pushing the buttons and seeing all these different compartments, I wanted to do that so bad. Honestly, I think that I tried to make my basement at home a crime lab, as it were. There was a big old desk that my parents had that I would sit at and pretend to be a detective. And then when they're fighting the Penguin and they're using the utility belt and using all the different gadgets, I love those gadgets. That's why I love James Bond. That's why I love Dick Tracy. That's all those kind of elements, was just the gadgets and the Mission Impossible, all those kind of things I was into. See, I'm getting excited just talking about it.
Get ready for Operation Foul Play.
So that's what was so attractive about this episode. As far as the story goes, I know that among a lot of Batman fans and in different circles of critique, this is not considered one of the best written episodes. Even Bruce Timm came out and said that it was a terrible script that they made, but I feel like it really did a great job of connecting with the audience, which was us. I mean, kids that were in their early teens or middle school age kids that identified with Sherman.
My name's Sherman, and I'm a detective too.
If you were at all a fan of Batman, who wouldn't want to? I still want to partner up with him.
Batman's in trouble. Come on.
I don't know about this.
So those elements of the episode are really strong, and I think that's the focus. Now, the other big part of this episode is that it is the first appearance of the Penguin. Seems like an odd choice for that, because the Penguin is painted sort of as a kind of a lousy villain because he's taken down by a bunch of kids, and then there's just this little quick duel between him and Batman before Batman gets the best of him, and his henchmen are pretty worthless. He's just stealing an egg. I mean, I don't even know what a Fabergé egg is, but looks expensive.
Oh, how much more doth beauty beauteous seem by this sweet egg which we have scrambled for.
So I get it. Those sorts of elements of the story are pretty weak. But then you have episodes like POV that is, again, a very basic plot. The police bus goes wrong and 3 police officers tell their version of the story. So they take this simple plot but wrap it in a really interesting package, and that does well for the episode. And I think this is the same case where it's a simple plot, but because of the package that it's put into, I think it plays really well.
Mom, I'd like you to meet Batman. Batman, this is my mom.
Ma'am?
A couple other little key notables in this is Rob Paulsen does a voice for one of Penguin's henchmen.
But boss, what about the Batman?
The man of many voices who's spoken for the Turtles and Yakko and Animaniacs. And something else that I don't think I ever noticed when I was a kid or thought about it in context is in Sherman's basement, right over Batman's head, there's a poster of the Joker that seems fitting for a crime lab or for a junior detective. But at the same time, in the context of Gotham City, the Joker is one of the most notorious criminals in the entire city. Who's merchandising him? I mean, who's creating products with the Joker's likeness on it and selling it to kids?
Gentlemen, and I use the term loosely.
Something else that I think that it's kind of neat about this episode, they have the couple of bullies in the beginning that's picking on Sherman and making fun of him for having the junior detective kit. And that could have been just a one-off to establish Sherman, but they kept the bullies in the story, and they come back and they find the Batmobile. And then by the end of the episode, they are helping Sherman out. And then the little tag at the end is they are now part of the junior detective group.
Now, where was I?
Someone keeps swiping Mr. Banducci's newspaper?
Right, Frank. You and Nick set her for surveillance. Roberta and I will be over at Mrs. Feynman's. Her dog is missing.
You're the boss, Sherman.
I know this is not one of the typical favorite episodes, but if you take the episode for what it is and just watch it as it is and put yourself in the shoes of Sherman or as your own 10-year-old self, it's a fun episode. It's a great joy to watch. Does it withstand the test of time? It's hard to say. You know, if I was to show it to somebody else now that had never seen it, I don't know if it'll connect with them the same way. Watching it now, it flooded me with all sorts of memories of being a kid and watching this, and this was one of the episodes that would end and I'd immediately go down in the basement and play Batman and play Junior Detective and had a blast doing that. So it brings back a lot of those fun, warm memories of watching it. So it's hard to separate that and really just look at it without being nostalgic.
This isn't a game, you jerks. If the Vulture's here, that means the Penguin will be right on his tail.
But when it comes time to rank this, I feel like I need to take all those things into account and not just look at it for the nostalgic value, but not just look at it for purely the animation and story and how well it ranks up based on today's standards. But I got to put that all into one package and see where it falls on my personal list of my favorite episodes. So when I look at all those things, I placed it just below POV. I think it's a very similar episode in the regards that the episode POV and this episode both have basic, simple plots, but it's the package that they're put into that makes it so much fun to watch and so entertaining.
Say, Batman, you wouldn't be single, would you?
I want to know how you felt about this episode when you were a kid. Do you share with me the nostalgic feelings of wanting to be a junior detective and wanting to partner with Batman and drive the Batmobile and connect with this episode on that level? Or is this an episode that just doesn't fall into your top 10 at all? I'd love to know in the comments below.
You should have taken your own advice.
If you enjoyed this episode at all, please click the like button. And if you want to see more of these episodes as they come out, you don't want to miss them, then click the subscribe button.
Gentlemen, your timing is impeccable.
Now, we have another little break coming up between the airing order of the episodes. But I'll be back on Thursday, October 5th, with Vendetta. But in the meantime, I've got plenty of back episodes to watch. And who knows, like I did last week, I snuck in an extra little episode of me unboxing Loot Crate. If you haven't seen that, be sure to click on that video to watch. So keep an eye on the channel. There may be another video that I'll be able to sneak in here before Thursday that's kind of off the subject of the Batman the Animated Series. But for sure, I will be back on Thursday. As always, I'm Andy Canode, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.